In the last lecture, we implemented a new class which showed us the need for encapsulation and data privacy. So let's now tackle this very important principle of object-oriented programming. Now, first, remember that encapsulation basically means to keep some properties and methods private inside the class so that they are not accessible from outside of the class. Then the rest of the methods are basically exposed as a public interface, which we can also call API. So this is essential to do in anything more than a toy application. Now, there are two big reasons why we need encapsulation and data privacy. So first, it is to prevent code from outside of a class to accidentally manipulate our data inside the class. And that's exactly what we did by the end of the last lecture here. So this is also the reason why we implement a public interface. So we are not supposed to manually mess with this property, and therefore we should encapsulate it. Now, the second reason is that when we expose only a small interface, so a small API consisting only of a few public methods, then we can change all the other internal methods with more confidence. Because in this case, we can be sure that external code does not rely on these private methods. And so therefore our code will not break when we do internal changes. So that's what encapsulation and data privacy are and the reasons for it. And so let's now actually implement it. However, JavaScript classes actually do not yet support real data privacy and encapsulation. Now, there is a proposal to add truly private class fields and methods to the language, but it's not completely ready yet. I will still show it to you in a next lecture because it's really cool, but even when this feature ships in the browser, it will take some time until you can use it with confidence. And so in this lecture, we will basically fake encapsulation by simply using a convention. So the first candidate to protect here is again this movements array that we have been talking about. So the movements are mission critical data, and so here we will protect this data so that no one can accidentally manipulate it. And for now, all we will do is to add this underscore in front of the property name, and that's it. Now we need to then go ahead and change it everywhere. So that's here. And yeah, that's actually it. So again, this does not actually make the property truly private because this is just a convention. So it's something that developers agree to use, and then everyone does it this way. But since it is not truly private, we call this protected. So protected property. And so now if we wanted to get the movements outside here, we could of course still do this. So that's what I was just saying, which is that the data here is of course still accessible if we use this underscore outside here as well. But at least now everyone on your team, and that includes yourself, will know that this property is not supposed to be touched outside of the class. So you can still do it, but at least you will know that it is wrong, okay? Now, if we still wanted to give access to the movements array from the outside, then we would have to implement a public method for that. So let's do that actually right here. So let's say get movements. And of course, we could also create a getter here instead of this method, but let's just keep it simple. So it's very common to actually have a method that is called get or set instead of using a real getter or a real setter. And so all that this will do is to return this dot movements. And so now this would be the correct way to get the movements. So get movements. And so this one everyone can still at least access the movements, but they cannot override them, so they cannot set the movements. Unless, of course, they use the underscore with the convention, but then at least they will know that it's wrong to access the property. Next, we could also protect here the pin. So this is also something that doesn't make much sense to be accessible from the outside. And in fact, we could make everything protected here, but I think that like this, we are good to go. So this is just a small example anyway. And so for now, let's leave it like this. To finish, let's just also protect then the approve loan method. So this one I also mentioned by the end of the previous lecture. So this is a method that is only supposed to be internally by the bank, let's say, basically just to check if a loan should be approved. So essentially, this method here should not be part of the public API, but all the others should be. So right now we are protecting this method, and so our public API right now consists of these other 4 remaining methods. All right. So this is how we protect fields from unwanted access. Now, as I said, of course, developers need to know about this convention and need to follow it, because otherwise everything will still be public. But now in the next lecture, we're actually going to talk about truly private fields and methods. And so with that, we will then fix this problem for good.